Once you have registered and set up your Informatica Cloud account, you can now configure it to connect to your Redshift cluster and to the data sources that you want to pull data out of to load into that cluster. So to set up my connections, I go to Configure and go to Connections. I then go to the New button where I'll set up my connection first to my Redshift cluster. So first I'll give this a name to keep track of. And I specify the type being Amazon Redshift. I then give my Redshift database username and password. And I specify my AWS access key and secret key. For best practices, it is recommended that you create a separate IAM user that will specifically be used for your data loads. I then specify the number of nodes in my cluster, and I need to specify the JDBC URL for the cluster. To get that information, I go to my AWS console, go to my Redshift cluster, and simply copy and paste the JDBC URL. I then click the test button, and we're all set. I will now create my connection to my data source that I'll pull data out of to load into my Redshift cluster. For that, I'm going to point to an RDS SQL server that I have. So again, I give it this a name, and I choose the type. And again, it is a SQL Server RDS instance. And I specify my database username, password, and connection information. For the host information, I go back to my AWS console. I go to RDS, go to Instances, and I take a look at my instance information, and I'm simply going to grab the endpoint without the :1433. So I copy and paste that, put it into host, and we see the 1433 is already specified under port. I then give my database name and schema that I want to pull data out of. And then I hit test, and now we're ready for our data loads.